Case 1. In 2005, Esteban Carpio, a resident of Boston, Massachusetts, was brought in for questioning regarding the stabbing of an 85-year-old woman, Madeline Gotta. During the questioning, one of the detectives left the room to get a cup of water for Esteban. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Esteban grabbed Detective Sergeant James L. Allen's gun, shot him twice, and killed him. He then jumped out of the third-floor window of the interview room and ran away. A chase ensued, and he was caught nearly an hour later. The next day, Esteban was brought to trial wearing a white mask designed to prevent him from spitting on or biting people. He had a red forehead and swollen cranial region, cheek, and forehead, making him almost unrecognizable. He was eventually sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Esteban's family members protested against the sentence, claiming that he was mentally ill and needed help. They accused the police of brutality during his arrest. However, an FBI investigation showed that the police did not use excessive force given the circumstances. The investigation concluded that Esteban's injuries were consistent with the force required to subdue him following his struggle with the police officers after his daring. Case 2. Case 2 involved the tragic murder of 20-year-old Portia Brooks and the attempted murder of her boyfriend, Aaron Martin, in 2013. Portia and Aaron were parked in a car in Norwood when three individuals, including 19-year-old Smith Riley, approached the vehicle to rob them. After ordering Aaron out of the car and finding no valuable possessions on him, Smith Riley shot Aaron in the head before proceeding to shoot Portia as well. Portia's boyfriend survived the shooting but suffered permanent brain damage, while Portia passed away in the hospital 3 days later. In 2016, a tip from Crime Stoppers led the police to Smith Riley, and he was charged with aggravated murder, attempted murder, aggravated robbery, and 2 counts of felonious assault. He was ultimately sentenced to life in prison without parole after pleading guilty to avoid the death penalty. His lawyer tried to argue that he deserved leniency, but the judge did not agree. During the trial, Portia's family delivered a victim impact statement, in which they expressed the pain and devastation they experienced as a result of Smith Riley's actions. Portia's father spoke of the complete disregard for life that Smith Riley displayed, while her sister called for him to never be released on parole. Smith Riley showed no emotion during the trial and received the sentence of life imprisonment without parole. Case 3. Ryan hijacked a car with a 4-year-old child inside just outside a gas station in Longmont, Colorado. He led the police on a high-speed chase spanning 60 miles that lasted 90 minutes. The chase ended when Ryan was caught running on foot, having damaged the vehicle he hijacked, but not before he crashed into a van, dragged the driver out, and stole the van in his attempt to escape. During the chase, Ryan hit a state trooper and several other cars, hijacked 2 others before being apprehended. After being caught, Ryan boasted to a female visitor in a video presented to the court that he has become famous and has made the news in different countries. He also talked about the possibility of getting paid by YouTube because of the many views his car chase generated. However, his behavior changed when he was brought to court for trial. He appeared tearful and blamed drugs for the wild car chase. Ryan's family stated that he struggled with drug addiction and pleaded with the court not to see him as a violent person but rather as a troubled young man. However, the judge was not moved by their pleas, and a jury sentenced Ryan to 160 years in prison, having been convicted of 18 counts, which included attempted manslaughter, first-degree assault, child abuse, and car theft. The case highlights the dangers of drug addiction and the consequences of committing crimes. Despite Ryan's family's pleas, the court saw him as a violent criminal who put innocent people's lives in danger and deserved a long prison sentence. Case 4. Case 4 involves Michael Madison, who kidnapped and murdered 3 people, wrapping their bodies in garbage bags. Michael grew up in a chaotic and abusive household, but this is not enough to excuse his crimes. One of Michael's victims was Cheryl D. Terry, and her father was called to give a victim impact statement during the trial. As Mr. Terry made his way to the front of the court, he turned towards Michael, who was sitting just a few feet away, and Michael smiled maliciously at him. This unremorseful smile was enough to make Terry's father go ballistic, and he ran towards Michael, throwing himself across the table and lunging at him. Police officers intervened just in time to prevent any further escalation, but this caused a commotion in the court, and a 15-minute delay followed. Michael was given the death penalty, and the judge stated that life imprisonment is too kind for horrific criminals like him. Michael neither answered the judge's question nor made any statement. He showed no remorse at all for his actions. Michael's upbringing in a chaotic and abusive household might have contributed to how he turned out, but it is not an excuse for the heinous crimes he committed. The fact that he showed no remorse during the trial only strengthens the case for his sentence. The impact on the families of his victims is clear, with Terry's father reacting strongly to Michael's unremorseful smile. The court proceedings show the importance of holding criminals accountable for their actions and giving victims' families a chance to speak out. Case 5. Case No. 5 involves the sentencing of Manson Bryant by Judge Eugene Luckey in Ohio for a violent home invasion and robbery while still on parole. Bryant had a criminal history and had appeared before Judge Luckey's court more than twice, starting from a juvenile case in 1999. Bryant's accomplice, and he had climbed through the victim's window, held them at gunpoint, and stolen their valuables. Bryant was charged with aggravated burglary, aggravated robbery, kidnapping, and abduction, which had a maximum prison sentence of 30 years. After examining the evidence, Judge Luckey sentenced Bryant to 22 years in prison, as he believed Bryant was genuinely remorseful. However, Bryant flared up instantly, swore at the judge, and called him a racist, which led Judge Luckey to reconsider Bryant's remorseful speech and add 6 additional years to his sentence, totaling 28 years. Bryant's attorney, Daniel Williams, stated that the hearings are often emotional, and his client had an emotional but regrettable action. In 2020, the case went to a court of appeal, but Bryant was unsuccessful, and the judgment was upheld. However, he appealed the judgment in the first week of June 2022, and the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that swearing at a judge is a case of contempt of court at most and does not warrant 6 years of additional jail time. The court stated that a trial judge could not increase a sentence simply because the defendant was abusive or offensive.